Bayview Podcast with hosts Andrew Clark and Chris Emery. This is designed to be a discussion on all things life and faith. We hope this serves as a weekly resource and encouragement to you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bayview Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew, joined, as always, by Mr. Chris Emery.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. What are you laughing about already? Why are you already laughing?
I don't know. I felt like you choked on your hellos.
Did I really? Did I choke on my hellos? Wow. Let's. We don't normally edit these, but I say, do we pause and go back?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the episode of the Bayview Podcast.
There we go. Hey, I'm Chris. So good to have you with us here. We're gonna rock and sock and anyway. Hey, welcome.
You know what it is? I'm back from vacation.
I was gonna say, dude, you've been on vacation. I think
rejuvenated.
Super giggly.
Yeah.
you were somewhere between vacation and sabbatical.
Dude. So you know what it is? It was flying on a plane and landing at midnight with 3 kids, 5 and younger.
Dude.
My daughter gets off the plane, and I say, she's just crying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's 3. I'm like, baby, it's going to be okay. It's going to be bedtime when she gets home. She goes, what? I thought we were going to be up. And I'm like, no, it's midnight. It's bedtime, very late. And she's just crying. And I say that a minute later, she's just still weeping, walking like out of the Traverse City Airport, yelling, I need a place to sleep. I need a bed. I was like, we're going home to sleep. She goes, okay, Daddy. So she was.
So that was just last night.
Yeah.
And so what time did you and your wife actually finally crawl into bed to go to sleep?
I think I fell asleep around 1:30ish.
Dude.
So, but great trip. So
yeah.
It was
down seeing your wife's family in North Carolina.
And yeah, it was a little rainy, but warmer than here.
Okay.
But I don't know. It was good. It's always good to go down there. We've had Tom Galbasek on a couple times, my father-in-law, which I always recommend those podcasts. Just an incredible story of alcoholic and military special forces for 28 years, and just that dynamic and how that played out in their lives, and to now where he's like helped plant a church in Abu Dhabi and sober for 8 years, and just crazy like radical life change. So he's been on a couple of times. Check those out. But always fun to hang out with him, hear stories, see her family, and the South is fun. People are kind, but sometimes kind mean. I don't know if that makes sense. Like bless your heart type stuff.
Passive aggressive.
Well, you're a Yankee too. So,
yeah, that's true.
I mean,
I am
you're
born and raised
different.
here.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun.
I thought of you this week because I heard some announcement that they're doing yet another sequel to Meet the Parents.
Sure.
Wow.
Where Ben Stiller's son brings home a fiance. And I thought of you because I've always felt like you are living Meet the Parents.
Yeah, no. When I asked Nicole's parents to marry her, I literally said to Tom, I was like, hey, sir, I know you know everything about me. And he literally just smiled and he just nodded. And I was like, oh, man, he's serious. Okay.
No joke.
Yeah, so you know everything about my life. And he just again nodded. I was like, okay. Like he had someone look me up.
Wow.
I can't prove that, but
Dude,
you know.
I believe that there's a very real chance that your little dorm room was bugged.
Oh, probably.
And that there was somebody in the tree watching you. I bet they had video surveillance on you at all times for a while.
He came and visited one time.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, that was why.
He knew.
Yeah, that was why. Yeah.
So, but
hey, so
times.
moving on. Anyway, good times. Hey, always awesome to have guests. But I'm super excited today because it's a colleague, it's a friend, it's a brother, and I can't believe it's taking this long to get him on the podcast. But man, we're so excited to have AJ with us today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, welcome. So, all right, we'll start with this. Give us the 15, 30-second overview of who are you, what do you do, what are you about?
Sure. My name is AJ. I'm a pastor at Westside Community Church here in Traverse City. I am married to a wonderful woman named Carissa. We've been married for 5 years in a month. And then,
5 years.
Crazy.
5 years.
Getting old.
Together for 10 years the day after.
That's
so,
crazy.
Wow. I know, long time. I have a 6-month-old. He turned 6 months yesterday. So August. He's a giggly boy. So that's my life. I mean, overview, I moved up to Traverse City about 8 years ago. Lived in Andrew's basement.
Awesome.
Had a couple asthma attacks because of their cats. R.I.P.
Yeah. You gotta bring up my cats. Like
I know.
that,
I'm
bro.
sorry. That's gonna be an emotional episode now.
I've been trying to replace their cats for them for 3 years now.
Oh, really?
They're not having it.
No, they're not ready. Yeah.
I'm ready.
It's gonna be a minute. I replaced them with 3 kids.
Yeah.
That's what I replaced my cats with.
Your kids need cats, and I got 2.
Comparable.
I got 2 for you. Your kids need cats.
That's funny.
Anyways.
Yeah, so I live with them, and yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, really good friends with Andrew and Nicole, and
Cool.
love what God's doing up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a sweet time.
So where are you from originally?
From the Detroit area, so about an hour, or about 30 minutes southeast of Detroit, in like the Canton, Wayne, Livonia area.
Yeah.
I grew up there. I spent about 10 years in South Texas too. So
Oh, really?
yeah, from 3 to 13, I was in South Texas.
All right.
And then I moved back up, spent middle school and high school in the Detroit area. Went to Grace. That's where I met Andrew and his family for Bible college. And then I moved up here. So
good, man.
yeah,
I feel like Grace owes us like a sponsorship kickback because they come up all the time.
for real.
Dude, yeah, it's wild. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
They owe us.
I'll call my brother, campus pastor, see if they
Dude,
can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
well.
go. Yeah, like we're throwing out that name, and we mention the name Mundo's every time, just in case they ever listen and they give us some Mundo's coffee.
Mundo's
so
coffee right now.
I
Right
would
here.
love some of that. Yeah, there we go. I just want to. Yeah. Anyway, sidebar. So good, man. So you and Andrew go way back. How and you guys met at college?
I was already graduated and working up here in Traverse City at Westside, and I actually was. There's a guy named Nick Brown who we were both kind of mutual friends with, and then my brother Jared.
Okay.
And we were we had this conversation at a conference we were at about the need for social media and just kind of like really branching out and taking that more serious. And we had an internship program, and I was just like, I keep seeing this stuff from this dude named AJ. I'm just going to make a phone call. And I think I called him at like 9 o'clock at night or something
Later.
random, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, like, hey, man, we've never really met. I think we met one time.
Yeah.
When I was down there speaking at something,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just like, we have this internship. You want
No
to come
way.
check it out? And being AJ, he was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And the rest
Sounded
is
fun.
history. Yeah.
That's cool.
It was fun.
I drove up here, and night one, I got here late, and I brought all my stuff down. They already ate dinner. I ate dinner too, and me and Andrew started talking late night chats to Dino Nuggets and what are the little frozen pizza things?
Bagel bites,
Yeah, basically. No, they were like
pizza rolls.
Pizza rolls.
Pizza rolls.
Yeah, pizza rolls and Dino Nuggets.
dude.
This was before any children too.
Wait, time out. You had Dino Nuggets before you had kids.
Brody, I was like peak student ministry. Like, that was just life.
Yeah, but it's one thing if you had said, hey, he had some chicken nuggies in there,
Yeah,
but
no,
Dino Nuggets.
Yeah, no,
Dude,
Dino Nuggets.
classic.
Spare no expense for the guest.
That's right. I was like,
Come
wow,
on.
what a carpet roll.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's so good, bro.
That was good.
Long
So
time.
that was when you at that point obviously you'd already felt called to some sort of ministry at that point.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was going to college for pastoral ministry.
Okay.
I had passion and relative gifting in creative arts, communication
yeah.
stuff. And so it was kind of like a mutual, like, I'm going to come up for the internship and serve in that creative role
Mhm.
while simultaneously getting exposed and opportunities for pastoral ministry.
yeah,
So working
totally.
alongside Andrew in youth, alongside John in just general pastoral,
Yeah.
with Stephen Scott, which I know you guys had on
Mhm.
the podcast before as well. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, we've had the residents or the interns on here at Bayview, and I mean, AJ was part of that initial grouping of
Yeah.
kind of like the idea of this, of let's have you come experience it all,
Mhm.
but we'll give you some, let's talk about what you really want to do, or what's a need maybe,
Yeah.
or a gifting, and maybe have you focus. But I mean, the whole goal was like, man, maybe AJ falls in love and realizes it's
Yeah.
okay, I can preach the gospel through social media,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or it is an idea of, man, I really want to be a teacher of the word.
Yeah,
I really want
yeah,
to pursue
yeah.
this. Who knows? He might have been like, I found I can sing, and I got to lead worship. I don't know.
hey, I mean, I
But-
still think that. No one else thinks that, but
So, but that was that mentality, and I think that was really fun to see. Of like, it was so obvious the gifting, social media wise, and not just but the creative. I think is a way better word to use. Like, so much stuff that helped, I think, jumpstart Westside's trajectory in terms of our online platform and stuff we were doing for our stream, and all that came from him.
Super good.
But then it was like to see him in student ministry and help him with camps and seeing him just in that more shepherding. It was like, oh, okay, bro, like this. I mean, cool. The melding of the two was epic. So
rewind the clock a little further. Then when did you just in the AJ story? Because as everyone that listens know, we don't script this, so we're just going where it goes. When did you start maybe feeling like, hey, I think God's called me into this ministry thing? I mean, we're all called to do ministry, but vocational ministry is a different calling. And when did you start maybe feeling that?
Yeah, so I'll go back a little further, too, for context. Yep. I didn't grow up in the Christian home. I didn't grow up in the faith. So I was in 8th grade, moved to a new school, and I met some kid named Nate who I had a bunch of classes with. Looking back, I see the providential hand of God just kind of placing me next to some kid named Nate in like 80% of my classes. Yeah. And so it was his kindness that opened us up to friendship, and he invited me to youth group. And after trying to dodge that a few weeks in a row, I finally gave in. It was funny, too. I ran out of excuses. I told them that I didn't have a ride because I didn't want to go to church. Yeah. I thought, I'm going to be the cool kid in this new school, which means date a pretty girl, be the goofy guy in class, and not go to church. Like, that's not.
Totally. Oh, yeah, totally.
So he invited me. I finally said yes because I ran out of excuses. And I went, and looking back, I see that John 13:35 love. Like, they'll know that you are mine by the way you love one another. Yeah. I saw the way they love one another, and that was so attractive and like inviting to me. So I kept coming back and hearing the gospel preached, and I just fell in love with the Lord, and He saved me a few months later. And then it wasn't perfect. Like,
no, totally.
I went through years of just being, the dumb high school kid, and wrestling with, giving up sin and walking in a faithful life, pleasing to the Lord. But about my sophomore year, maybe junior year, one of my best friends, Zach, his sister, she actually is the one who introduced me to this idea of going into pastoral ministry. She was just like a comment of, hey, have you ever considered being a pastor? And I laughed that off too. I was like, no, what? That's weird. I don't want to be a pastor. I didn't even want to be a Christian, let alone be a pastor. Like, no thanks. And after I realized what it means to be a pastor, to love God, to love people, and to try to give your life up to help people love God. I realized, like, there's no other joy in the world compared to that. And my youth pastor, I think he was a good one. He tried to convince me out of it. He was like, well, let's slow down here. All right.
Yeah.
And I think what that helped me realize is, like, it's a serious calling. And not one to take lightly. And so that was a calling. Junior year, I just felt this overwhelming love for people and for the Lord.
Well, well done too by that youth pastor, because he did instill in you the understanding of how important that calling is. I've often looked at it like it's God tapping you on the shoulder of being like, hey, for this, I'm calling you over. And ministry, as we all know, we've all been long enough to know that there are extreme highs in ministry, but there are some deep valleys. And there are times where there is a lot of discouragement. There's time where there's a lot of what feels like losses. And I've experienced that those that try to go through that because they thought ministry would be cool, but they weren't called to it, man, it just chews them up and spits them out.
Yeah.
And it's doing that to people that are called too. But
Yeah.
I know for me, there have just been seasons in my ministry over the last 31 years now where the only thing I could rely on was the fact that God had called me to do this.
Yeah.
Nothing else was affirming. Nothing else was going well. But it's like, I don't know, God. I know you called me to it, so I'm in. And so it's like, man, when you're called, like that's significant. It's real. And so well done by that youth pastor to recognize that. I mean, not to talk you out of it, but to make sure you understood that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an old saying that I've had given to me years ago. I don't remember who said it to me. Maybe I read it somewhere. But it said, if you're called by God into the ministry, into pastoral ministry, don't settle for being a king. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, don't settle for all the worldly things like the fame and power and stuff. If you're called to this, that shows not just the magnitude, but the privilege of it, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just real.
That's good.
It's a big deal.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't think people sometimes put together the loneliness factor too that comes with ministry.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I think like just walking through that, even with my wife, and just like, I mean, it's different trying to get into a small group. It's different trying to like have friends that you feel like you can trust, because there's just a different element tied to it. And so it just feels like this constant, like, I think of even as a youth pastor of like there was a young me who was like, I want to turn every cool kid that I really like into another youth pastor. And then the older me was like, I don't want them to experience this if they ain't called to this.
Yeah.
And it's like that to actually walk and talk through someone, what sounds like your youth pastor did with you, I think is just so awesome.
Yeah.
I think, I agree. I think it's, well done.
Yeah.
I think it's super cool. So, all right. So then, tell us, maybe tell us your Jesus story then. So you didn't grow up in a home where mom and dad were believers.
No. Go ahead.
No.
Sorry.
So how did that play out even with mom and dad and your relationship with them? How did all that play out?
That's a fun one. So when I gave my life to Christ and began just taking the Lord serious, I'm a passionate guy by nature, and so I go all in, and I went all in with Jesus, and so I was radicalized, right? Like I was in the Word. I wanted to go to youth group, every church event. I was there. I'm on mission. Like they had to leash me up, man. It was bad. My family, they weren't having it, and so they were fine with me going. They were fine with me finding that community. But when it bled into my future, I remember going out. And my parents, they're fully supportive of me and my brother. We're both pastors. We love the Lord. They go to church whenever they're up here. Sure. It's great. At the time, though, I remember going out to dinner with my parents, and that's when I told them that I want to go to Bible college to be a pastor. And my mom just got up from the table and left. She was crying. She was so angry. She was like, "You're throwing your life away."
Wow.
And I remember one of my uncles was like, "For a smart kid, you're really making a dumb choice. Like that's just what a stupid decision." It was a lot of, and so going back, hearing my youth pastor really strongly like questioning me, not in a negative way, just like really wanting to refine, like, is this real or not? And it would have been so easy to not pursue it. So that call, whether it was into ministry or just into the faith, just being a Christian, all of that suffering or opposition made it so much more real for me. So that way when, it's being battle tested. Really, like you don't want to buy armor, buy weighted vest, plated vest, be like right before you go into battle, and then you realize like, oh, this isn't real. Like whatever I just bought, it's not real. It needs to be battle tested. It's because when the bullets come flying, then if it's not the real deal, I mean, you're gone. Yeah. And so that at an early age, I'm grateful for that kind of pushback, because it, in the later years when going through suffering, which we can get into, but I mean, it's just when life came, I was anchored in that calling at an early age.
I'm fascinated though that, looking back now, it's like, man, I'm so glad I went through that at an early age.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. That's awesome. But man, as a junior in high school, when mom and dad or, parental influences, family members at home, the adults, they still play a significant role in the affirmation and the direction of your life.
Yeah.
How did you find yourself continuing to step into this calling when you were really getting all this pushback? How do you remember walking through those times?
Mm-hmm. Community. So
Okay.
there's some practical things. There's also the real spiritual aspect of it, but the community I was around.
Okay.
My boys, they were with me throughout it all, and we didn't have that relationship without like the trials that we suffered together too. One of our a couple years earlier, one of our leaders, he passed away the day after his wedding. They were driving down to Myrtle Beach on their honeymoon. They got into a giant wreck, and he died. Immediate on impact. And his wife survived him. She was good. That was the girl who identified that calling in the ministry for me.
Wow.
And so we were freshmen in high school, and our youth leader died tragically. I was a baby Christian, so at an early age I had to develop a theology of suffering.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, I got a good one. And so we were really close friends. So then when I got this pushback from my family, they were already there with me, and I trusted them. I trusted some of the pastors in my life to speak into me, to affirm that calling, and to spur me on. And then I trusted the Lord. I mean, it was not easy, but in His Word, feeling that pulling from the Spirit, that this is where He wants me to go. Those are some of the things that kept me on that path.
So let me ask you this question then, and this is for the younger listeners that may be listening. And I, you still have a lot of student ministry involvement. Andrew does as well. I still go speak at a lot of youth camps, and I love student ministry still. And so maybe if any of those are listening and they're in a similar spot, how did you continue to honor this calling while at the same time honoring mom? How did that look for you?
Yeah, I'll start off with saying there's a fine line between having to, in a way, dishonor your parents for the sake of the Lord.
Yeah, right.
I think the majority of tension we face is just we don't want to honor our parents because we don't want to submit. We're selfish. We'd rather do our thing and mask it with this spiritual kind of veneer of like, I want to honor God, and that means I have to go to this church event. Yeah. If you didn't do the laundry and the consequence you weren't able to go to the all-nighter, as a youth pastor, we want them to go. Yeah. But also as pastors, as we want you to honor your parents, and that's the consequence, dude. So there's that, but then there's another aspect where if I feel a calling in the ministry from the Lord and my mom or dad says no, that's one where I can try and be gracious, be patient, explain without attacking or dismissing.
Absolutely.
Asking them for their advice of like, well, what would you have me do? Like, I feel this. I really want to do this. Yeah. If you were in my shoes, what would you like? How can you deny God? Yeah. So I try and take a step back from the immediate emotional response, which we all get. I'm not dismissing that. But first and foremost, try and honor God, which there's a way to do that and honor your parents. But then ultimately, like, it is God. I mean, we gotta honor Him above it all.
That's good.
Yeah, I think we have to obey. I think that's probably the meaning behind an often misunderstood teaching from Jesus, where He says, "Hey, unless you hate your mother and hate your father, you can't be my follower." And that's obviously through translation and keeping it in context, we understand what he's saying. He's saying that, like, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's following me above everything.
Yes.
Because it's Jesus plus nothing. But under that umbrella, we also have this calling that we uphold all the commands that God has given us. Mm-hmm. And part of that is there is still a path. There's always a path forward, unless it's abusive or something extreme. There's always this path where you can still honor mom and dad, even if they don't get it. Mm-hmm. If they don't understand, there's still that path.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that even applies moving forward, even into our adulthood, because there's a lot of adults who are followers of Jesus and their families are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you go in there, and you argue and you point fingers and you judge. Mm-hmm. And no, there's still this way of you show them who we are by how we love, love each other, love them, and to still show respect and honor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important contrast.
Yeah.
Well, think about it logically. The way I think about it is God will not present us with a path that leads to sin.
Correct.
So, and we get that from James.
Yep.
If I am at a fork in the road and it's either honoring my parents or honoring God, and as dishonoring God is sin, so it's either sinning or honoring God, which is dishonoring my parents, which is also sinning. So it's like, if God is leading you in a direction, he will not present a path that leads only to sin. Mm-hmm. So then it makes us think, well, is there a way to do this without sinning?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And I think that there is.
Sure.
But that's just having to...
So basically, God's not going to put you at that fork.
Yeah.
If you're at that fork, it's maybe self-created.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's super good. I don't know.
Yeah.
We had it easy because we grew up in pastors' homes, so that was super easy breezy, right?
Yep. More or less. Yep.
Always good days.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked. It was, I think I've shared just like the tension I felt of like in my situation was like, am I doing this just because?
Yeah. 100%.
Like, and that was like the fork I felt like I got placed at of like, no, this is what I'm called to do. And my parents were super gracious with it and all that. But yeah, it was almost like, is this just the next thing I do?
Yeah.
But
and I think everybody, I mean, this isn't isolated to just pastors' kids, but pastors' kids are probably, it's a little more highlighted because of mom or dad's vocation. But every child at some point has to go down the journey of, why do I believe what I believe? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is it because it's mine, or because it's the only option presented to me?
Yeah.
And even raising my own children, I knew they were going to have to take that path, that journey. My prayers of dad was that they would take that journey while they were still under my roof, so that I could pray for them, walk it with them, guide them, but not make those decisions for them. Yeah. But that's not always the case. Yeah. And I have a brother who, I can say this because I know he's not going to listen to this podcast. He's still on that journey. He's 50. I think he saw a lot of the pain, a lot of the suffering that goes into ministry existence. And I think he was really angry at watching the way people treated my father, the very people that he sacrificed to love and to serve. I think he got tired of watching people say one thing, do another, right? And he had a front row seat. And I think he's like, listen, I don't need this.
Yeah.
And I pray for him every day. I have good conversations, but he still has not decided that this journey's for him. And, praying one day he will, like we all do with families and friends close by.
Yeah.
So, cool. So talk to us a little bit of, you've been going through quite a few significant ministry changes, we don't have to talk church politics because that's always a whole nother fun podcast. But just, how are you doing with all that now? Like you've gone from, you and I've known each other as acquaintances for a little while now, and we're starting to, get to know each other and hopefully build more of a friendship and go play some golf together. But I've known you as AJ, Andrew Clark's intern. That was before I knew Andrew Clark. I just knew of Andrew Clark. Because I think I met you one time. I think I came and spoke at Westside at one of your fall kickoffs one time with John Pomeroy there. And so I knew that, AJ. And then I knew of AJ, the guy taking over student ministries. And then now it's AJ, teaching pastor, poet, sculptor, Esquire, right? Renaissance man. I don't know what all goes into that package.
Yeah.
So how have you found God just preparing you for this journey and just some of the things you've been recognizing through the good and the bad, through the pain, through the suffering, through the victories?
Yeah. Man, I think that the thing that I've learned the most is just God's faithfulness. He loves the church, his
Amen.
bride, more than we would ever.
Totally agree.
And it's clarified, like, the pain that I have to be careful. If I feel wounded, if I feel hurt, is that people hurt or is that God hurt? And in the church, I mean, Andrew knows a lot of this, but just my testimony has just been, 15 years of pastoral failure and leadership pain and suffering. And I think that through all of that, I could have deconstructed and had church hurt, but reminding myself that that's not God hurt. God didn't wound me. Man wounded me. And God's faithful. God's the healer. So the wounds of man can be healed by God. And so I'm not wanting to give up on the church because I've been hurt by her, but love her through it because God loves her through it.
So good.
So yeah, and all of the transitions and all of those seasons, we've our church has gone through a lot, but it's bonded us together.
Good.
And we've leaned heavily on the faithfulness of God. And Philippians 1:6, like, he will be faithful to see us to completion. So yeah, I mean, I could go further, but I think that's the biggest thing I've learned to just trust him through all the.
Break that down for me a little bit more. I'm sorry, you probably have questions. I'm just totally dominating the questions. You guys hang out all the time. I don't ever get to do this, so just deal with it. You made fun of my intro, so
Got you.
Get right.
Because I think that's an important path to take a few steps down, and that is differentiating between maybe not even just people hurt, but just fallen world hurt versus God hurt. There are a lot of people who are going down a path of deconstruction or even just apostasy, walking away. There are a lot of people who I believe are angry with God because God didn't do this or should have done that, and it's leading them down a path where in the proper context, it should catapult you deeper in your walk, right? Like, suffering should push you towards Jesus, but it's not for a lot of folks. So how were you able to walk that path where you didn't allow the pain, the hurt to push you into a place where, like, you know what, I'm breaking this whole thing down because I don't think it works, which is what deconstruction is. How do you remember, or how do you feel like you were able to find that path to deepening faith?
Not without its trials, right? Like, trial and error for sure. Yeah, and I haven't hit this, like, place of, nirvana. This, like, place of, I hit the peak. I've arrived.
Right.
By any means. I think though that it's like if I were to walk into this room, stub my toe on the coffee table, but then blow up the whole building. I think that's the overreaction that we have when having been hurt by the world, by the people, by the sinful, sin-infused world. I don't think it's an appropriate response to blow up the church because you stubbed your toe and one or even a few bad experiences. And if I were to talk to somebody in front of me who, like, if I'm getting coffee with them, or I go over to their house or whatever, and we're counseling, and I'd be much more compassionate. So want to qualify with that. I don't want to just, like, blanket statement everyone. Totally. I'd ask more clarifying questions. I do much less talking than listening. But I think that it can be a pretty selfish entitled response, and this is from my own experience, if I were to lump in all Christians and God in general, with the relatively few in like painful instances I've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So my life isn't the example of Christianity, you know.
Yeah.
So I got to take God at His word. And so what does God's word say? Well, God's word says that pastors should conduct themselves in this way, which is different than the experience that I've had with some pastors, right? That Christians should live this way. But I've experienced Christians this way. So am I going to trust that the Christians are living, that I've been wounded by, the Christians are living the way that God wants them to live? Or am I going to take God at His word and say, no, these are actually bad representatives of the kind of love that God wants to give me? So if I do that, then I'll actually feel a few things. I'll feel more of a dependence on God for that I was once looking for in these people. I'll feel a pity or a sympathy or a compassion for the people who aren't living a way that's like aligned with God and the life that He has for them. And then I'll also feel comforted because I'm not getting my identity or comfort or, you know, purpose from people. I'm getting it from the Lord. So those are some of the ways that I've thought through it and been able to push through. It's just trying to, as best as I could, trying to think rightly and think biblically of the suffering that I've experienced or the people that have hurt me. And so to those people who are going through that, I mean, I would have the deepest heart for. It's not easy when the people that are supposed to be loving you the most are actually the ones that are causing the most trauma, pain, you know, inflicting the harshest wounds. But I stand right there with you and saying, no, I agree with you. They're not doing what they should be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the harshest criticisms thrown at church from outsiders is full of a bunch of hypocrites, which would be people who, in their view, people who say one thing and do another. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, you're right. I mean, they're a bunch of sinners at church, but that's where they need to be. You know, I mean, it hurts because maybe it's real, but
Yeah.
Andrew, what about you, man? Because, I mean, you as well, all of us, but you too, you've had your path of suffering. I would say you've had ample opportunity to say, hey, thanks God for the opportunity. This sucks. I'm out.
Sure.
Like what's brought you through it? Like how you find yourself sitting here today, still passionate to follow the Lord, still passionate to serve Him in this capacity.
I think similar to what AJ is saying, of just like, is this God or is this just people? Like it's hard to, and I've preached on it before and talked about it. Like, again, it's like if I give Him all my mountaintop experiences, cool, but I like remove Him from all my valleys, like I'm saying He's not present all the time. So again, if he's epic and good here in the mountain, then He's got to be epic and good here in the valleys. But in the same way, I think it's like we've been talking about, He's not going to lead you to sin. He's not going to lead you to this place where it's like this point of destruction, more or less. I think that's where a fallen world, a sin-filled world, and so it's always just been this constant kind of. It's gotten simpler, if I'm being honest, but it's constant. Is that God or is this man? And so I think when it comes to the church and it comes to failures and it comes to stuff with my dad or other church leaders or friends or individuals or any of this kind of stuff, it's always come back to like, well, that's them. Like, that's not God.
Yeah. And
so I don't know. That's probably been the best way to describe it. Of like, if I felt called to this, if I felt like I was supposed to be about this, if this is what I've built my life on, of who I've built my life on, then all this other stuff that comes with it is just part of the experience, but it's not Him.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
And two, I mean, I think when you categorize those things rightly, it allows you to have conflict resolution. So like you and I, we've been friends for a long time. We've been good friends for a long time. and we've had our fair share of conflict. But if I were to have just said, like, of course, Andrew, a pastor, a Christian, has hurt me, and they're all like that, and I just gave you the cold shoulder and, stewed and sulked in my bitterness, walked away, then I'm going to be mad at Christians, pastors, and God.
Yeah.
But instead, that was an opportunity to talk it out with you and resolve conflict.
Yeah.
And say, like, hey, I was hurt in this way, and you were able to do the same, and we resolved the conflict and strengthened our friendship. And I think we run away from that conflict a little too quickly, oftentimes, because it's scary.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of church hurt is just seeds of bitterness that festered and were watered and nursed and grew and sprouted fruit, which was deconstruction or apostasy or whatever.
I think some of it too is driven by this deep disappointment.
Yeah.
Disappointment, and we can say disappointment in life. We all have those, or disappointed by people. Like I'm going to disappoint you. Like I am. I'm not. I'm not perfect. And we tell our people all the time. Like, listen, if you're looking for a perfect place with a perfect pastor and perfect people, you have made a horrible choice this morning. But if you're looking for a place where we're not perfect, we're following a perfect God. But I think it extends beyond that. I think there's a lot of people when they go down that path of deconstruction and they go down this path of apostasy, which that's a big word for walking away from Jesus. I mean, we'll quit using the big fancy words. I think it's that they're disappointed in God.
Yeah.
And they feel like God in some way, shape, or form has let them down. He didn't come through like he said he would. He didn't he didn't keep a promise, or he didn't do this. And that's a crazy thought, because those very same people, very few in my conversations have I ever heard someone say God can't. Because if they believe God can't, then there's no disappointment because he just wasn't capable. No, the issue is this. They believe he can, so they don't doubt his ability, but they radically doubt his faithfulness. And that goes back to what you were talking about. You were just so reliant on his faithfulness. And that's when we get into this place where disappointment and bitterness and all these things begin to seep in because God did not come through in their perspective. Now, the reality is this. God didn't do it your way.
Yeah.
God didn't meet your timing, and God may not have met your misplaced expectations. So in the same breath, we can believe in God's almightiness and doubt his faithfulness all day long. And I think that's where so many people get lost right there. It's like, listen, just trust his sovereignty along with his might. And this is crazy because literally like 2 hours ago, I was at the bedside of a person from our church and at the hospital. And this individual had just gotten the news right before I got there that they have very advanced stage liver cancer.
Wow.
Person's elderly. They're close to 90. Not candidate for transplant. Probably not candidate for anything, to be honest. And they looked at me and with the most genuine, pure, truthful heart, looked at me. I was blown away. Looked at me and said, I'm good. I'm good. And I was like, wow. Yeah. I was like, man, my heart's breaking for them, but I was almost like, God, thank you for exposing me to that faith this morning. Watching someone whose life is going to come to a close sooner than later, most likely. And as we prayed, it wasn't anybody in the room saying God can't. We believe God can still heal. Yeah. He can do a miracle, sure. Yeah. If he so chooses, all day long, rock on. I celebrate it. But they were good to say whatever God chooses, I'm okay with. Yeah. That's this place of peace and contentment and joy and following him through the goods and the bads. That's where we see God good on the mountaintops and God just as ridiculously good in the valleys. Yeah. Because whatever you bring my way, I trust not just in your ability, I trust in you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I've learned through it all, a lot of times what people do, it's almost like man, that first date with your future spouse, right, or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and you hear some song. So every time you think of that, hear that song, now you think of that moment, or you smell these cookies, make you remind you of grandma's house. Or I think people attach God to certain things. So if you got saved at a certain church, well, again, you're going to now, you naturally almost attach all good things of God to that church, which means the bad things you're probably going to attach to God from that church. Like, and I think that's walking with people who really struggled after like a pastoral failing. It was like, well, did I really get saved? Well, it's like, well, that's not the question. Like, God can use anything, and that person didn't save you.
Mm-hmm.
It was God.
Mm-hmm.
And but just I think it's a natural thing for us, and I think why we see deconstruction happen and that disappointment set in so quickly is because there's so much, rightfully so, good attached to a thing or a person or a place.
Yeah, totally.
When it comes to God,
Yeah.
that then if that person, place, or thing fails, that must have been God who fails.
Correct.
When I was a senior in high school, one of my best friends, she was a youth leader, and she graduated the year before, and so she was one of the leaders. The youth pastor, it came out that he was having inappropriate relationships with a lot of the young women in his leadership, a lot of the youth leaders, and I was really close with the guy, and that was really painful. And this girl was one of the women that he abused, and I remember having conversations with her about her baptism because he baptized her, and she was really wrestling because she associated her baptism with this man, and whenever she thought about this man, it was just icky. It was disgusting, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
And so my advice at the time was to think higher of the baptism, of you giving your life to the Lord, and to think rightly about this guy and the abuse and the pain. And he was like, absolutely, like, that was a terrible misuse and abuse of his authority and disgusting. Think rightly about that. That's what that was. But also think rightly about the baptism. And that was a really sensitive, I mean, to your point, sensitive, intimate memory and association. So, I mean, to this day, I'm sure she wrestles with, like, whenever she sees the baptism or whenever she thinks of that, like, seriously fruitful time in her life, it's associated with that. And that's the messiness of life in a sinful, terrible, a terribly sinful world. But I'm grateful because she walked out of that with a deeper clinging to the Lord. Because it was like she wasn't getting baptized for this pastor. She was getting baptized for the Lord. And we all wrestle with painful things like that.
We do. All right, so do me a favor. Let's wrap it up with this. Each of you, I'll give you a second to think about. So let's say somebody's listening and they're dealing with pain, woundedness, disappointment. Maybe they're considering, is this Jesus thing real? Is this all, we had a prayer request this morning from someone praying for a sister who, I'm done. I'm walking away. Give them a one sentence or one long sentence encouragement of just remember this. Just remember this.
Interesting. That's a good one.
That is a good question.
All right, I'll go first. I'll give you a second to think about it. I always go to the parable son. And if you don't know what that is, go read it.
The prodigal son?
Yeah, the parable son. The prodigal son. There you go. The lost son is really what it's called. Same passage with lost son, lost coin. Anyway, short version is God is so excited just to have you home. Sin took you away. He loves you. He just wants you back. That's the love he has for you, no matter what. He just wants you back home. Through Jesus Christ, he made that way. He loves you. Don't just know that. If nothing else matters, just know that.
That's a good one.
It is.
Ditto.
Not a competition. I don't know.
No, I always think of that for me, it's for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ. And I always fall back on that one, even teaching that with students, just because it's like literally everything that's this life specific, human, this side of heaven, it leads to nothing but death because of sin. Like it's all failing.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't be shocked by failure. Don't be shocked by pain or suffering, because that's what this life is.
Yep.
But there is this gift, and
That's
it
cool.
came through Jesus on the cross, and it's free for you. You just have to say thanks. Like you like, just receive it.
Totally. Yeah.
And it gives you hope, eternal life. That's the best way to describe eternal life, is hope, that there's something beyond tomorrow.
So good.
And to cling to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'd probably say Paul wrote in 1st or 2nd Corinthians, but God is the God of all comfort, who comforts us in every affliction. And so I think that the person who is hurt, to remember God did not hurt you, but God can heal you.
Yeah.
So good.
He is the God of all comfort. Comfort doesn't exist outside of him. And he can comfort you in every affliction. There isn't a pain that you go through that his comfort can't wash over. And that won't take the pain away, but the sovereign, comforting God of creation can hold you through the pain that you're in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love, hope, and healing.
It's good.
That's so good. AJ, you are, I know you're a blessing to Andrew as a friend. You're a blessing to all of us that are colleagues and hanging out. I know you're a blessing to Westside. You're a blessing to Traverse City. So we're blessed to have you here fighting this fight with us. And we need to all be in this together. And I love your kingdom heart, your kingdom mind. I love that you're in this with us, man, fighting shoulder to shoulder with us. So thanks for being with us today.
It was a pleasure and a joy.
We'll have you back without a doubt, for sure. So if you haven't done so, hit subscribe or like at the bottom of whatever platform you're listening on. That way you never miss an episode. We're here each and every week. And so until next week, it's Andrew, it's AJ, it's Chris. We're out of here, and we'll see you next time around.